We are back, and today we're talking about one of the most chaotic, unpredictable, and league-winning stretches of the fantasy basketball calendar, silly season.
Greatness means everything.
So if you've played fantasy basketball for a while now, you know exactly what I mean when I'm talking about silly season. The fantasy basketball playoffs hit, contenders start resting stars, lottery teams start evaluating young talent, and suddenly guys who are barely rostered all season are dropping top 30 numbers out of nowhere. Now remember, championships aren't solely won by just drafting well. They're won by picking up the right breakout at the right time. In this video, we're going to go over 5 guys that have the potential to be a silly season league winner if things break their way to close out the year. First up, from the tanking Brooklyn Nets, we're going to go with Day'Ron Sharpe. Now, like I viewed Jalen Smith about over a month ago, I feel the same way about Sharpe. He legitimately has lottery ticket upside if Claxton were to get shut down or be extremely limited to close out the year. Anytime that Claxton has missed a game and Sharpe has got the start, he's went literal beast mode, grab my nuts type of thing. And if you look at his most recent 4 starts, Sharpe has averaged 13.8 points, 8.5 boards, 4.3 assists, 2.3 steals, and 1.3 blocks across 31 minutes per game. And just look at the line that he gave us in that last start, in the last game before the All-Star break. Sharpe is absolutely relentless on the glass, on the boards. He's currently the Brooklyn Nets all-time franchise leader for offensive rebound percentage at 18.3%, which is kind of a crazy stat. He is completely flying under the radar the last few years on these terrible Brooklyn Nets teams. The UNC product does have a real touch for playmaking for the center position as well, and the only thing that's really held him back from consistently stuffing the stat sheet on a nightly basis has been minutes and usage. With that being said though, Brooklyn is headed toward another lottery selection type year. Brooklyn is not going to be in the market for winning basketball games down the stretch. They want to lose as much as possible, and Sharpe is just a per minute monster who is oozing with upside if he can get an extended look to close out the year. Sharpe would legit have league winning upside if Brooklyn were to prioritize his minutes for the remainder of the season. And I really hope they do. Next up, a next silly season potential league winner here, we're going to have Neat Clifford. Now, everyone calm down for a second. If you streamed him the last week before the All-Star break, or if you're looking at his game log saying, what the fuck is that? Okay, I get it. Going 1 from 15 from the floor is actually honestly impressive. That's how bad it really is. 1 for 15. And I'm in that same boat with you guys if you picked him up. I picked him up in a bunch of leagues to stream him to get a man game bump before the All-Star break because I like the potential of what we could see in silly season. And yes, he single-handedly destroyed my field goal percentage chance in all those leagues, winning that category. That's gonzo. So whatever, I'm over it. But if we can just look past that, I think Clifford has found himself in a very meaningful role to close out the year. Levine has been ruled out for the rest of the season. Now the Kings are fully switching into full tank mode, and they have every reason to incentivize the development of their young talent the rest of the way. And a main piece of that will be Clifford, their 2025 first round 24th overall selection in the NBA draft. So what type of player is Clifford? Well, Clifford is a very big athletic wing who can create for himself on and off the ball, and he seems to be able to play under control within a half-court offense. The thing that I am most hopeful for the Big Red Dog, if you could just put your hatred away for 1 second from those poor shooting performances that we've got from the last 2 games, the counting stats are just there when his shots start falling to have potentially massive nightly fantasy lines. If we just look at those last 2 poor shooting games, he still averaged 6.5 boards, 6 assists, and 1.5 steals. Even if he can just go 40% from the field on most nights, the lines that he's going to produce are going to be extremely useful for 12 league teams, points, or category. I do like Clifford as a potential league-winning silly season ad if his shots can start falling consistently and if he can just get to that 40% mark from the field for most nights to close out the year. Okay, we'll keep going with the Nets' second first-round pick in the 2025 NBA draft, Nolan Traore. Now, he has started the last 8 straight games, slowly working himself to be an important piece down the stretch for this terrible tanking Brooklyn Nets squad. But for fantasy, he's only really been usable the last 4, with averages of 17.3 points, 2.8 rebounds, 8 assists, and 0.8 steals with 1.8 triples in 32 minutes per contest. The field goal percentage has been promising at 59%. You'd like him to be a little bit better from the charity stripe, only at 71%, but he's not really getting enough volume right there to be a real detriment for those category league guys, so we don't need to be too concerned with that right now. Jaeger Doyman has been the more talked about rookie guard in the Nets organization, but Traore has really outplayed him the last little while here now. The Nets have been testing this rookie backcourt duo with him and Doyman running the show, and with Doyman spending a lot more time off ball and Traore running more of the point duties, more of the point guard traditional duties, and it seems to be meshing well. Brooklyn is going to prioritize the development of both these young guards down the stretch to see if they mesh well, to see if they play well together, to see if they're going to be a part of their future plans as they head towards another NBA draft lottery for 2026. I would expect to see Traore to be 30 plus minutes per night for the remainder of the season, and he should be an ad for 12 league teams. Okay, so next up we're going to go Maxime Reynaud from the Sacramento Kings. Now Sabonis has been ruled out for the rest of the season, so Maxime's going to be in a massive position to finish off the year as presumably the starter for the Kings, for the tanking Kings. And in even bigger news, Dylan Cardwell, his direct competition for playing time, has been ruled out for the next 4 weeks. So Reynaud is in a massive position here, produce huge value for 12 league teams to close out the year. So with Maxime, the Frenchman, we've seen the upside evidenced by his 21-19 1-1 game, but then also the downside with how he followed that up with his 7-4 1-1 right after. I think he falls somewhere in between. I don't think we're going to see as many nights like that huge 21-19 game, but I think he'll a little bit be better than his 7-4 game. Reynaud is definitely going to be a limited scorer, but he's going to help with the boards, he's going to help with the field goal percentage, and he's going to have a sprinkle of defensive stats. I think he's going to have a really good opportunity here to showcase himself to this Kings organization with startable minutes, with a ton of minutes, ton of usage. He should bring down a ton of boards. Hopefully this is going to really impact his points category, get a decent bump for his points floor there. Hopefully we can see his defensive stats show up a bit. Again, regardless though, with Sabonis out for the year, with Cardwell missing at least the next 4 weeks, Reynaud is the guy now on that Sacramento team, and you should get an extended look, an extended run. And if I think he's on the waiver wire right now, you have to go and add him. And if you have him already, I think you just got a really good player to close out the year. And yes, I know I was wearing a hat for the start of this video, and now I'm not wearing a hat. I'm filming this over 2 days, got busy the first day, couldn't finish it. You know, dad life. I'm just letting you eyeballers know if you're like, what? Okay, and last up, we're going to go Tristan Vukovic from the Washington Wizards. Now, Alex Sarr will not be back before February 26th. That'll be his earliest return date. And even though Washington has said AD plans to play this year, is going to play this year, I just don't believe that at all. I still think they're just blowing smoke up our ass with that. I think they're going to be overly cautious with their young star in Sarr, and especially their aging one in AD. Soft tissue injuries are extremely tricky. Like, just look at Jalen Green and Josh Giddey this year. You never really know what to expect with them, and they can get re-injured very easily. When Vucevic has logged over 20 plus minutes in a game this year, he's averaged 14.4 points, 4.9 rebounds, 2.1 assists, 0.6 steals, and 1.3 threes in 9 games. I think he easily could be a top 75 player here if he can get close to that 30 plus minute threshold per night. He is like the last center left in Washington with Sarr and AD out right now. The game logs can look gross, I know, but when we do see him hit over that 20-minute mark per night, you can see that he gets loose and he usually bangs home a usable fantasy line. I'm not sure what to expect from a defensive standpoint from him. It's so hard to judge with players when they really haven't been getting many minutes throughout their career, and a lot of those minutes are in garbage times or complete blowouts when it is a lot harder to get defensive stats. But you can usually expect an uptick if one of these players moves into a starting role, a larger role when the game's still competitive, and I expect to see a slight uptick with Vukovic in that regard. So at worst here, I think he'll at least be usable for a few games until Sarr gets healthy enough to get back on the court. And at best here, I think he could be a starter and be a staple in your 12 league teams to close out the year. I'm going to be paying very close attention to see how the Wizards are going to handle their young star in Sarr, see what they're going to end up doing, and when or if they eventually rule AD out for the rest of the year, because I think Vucevic could get a very large bump is really like the last man standing there in Washington. You know, we always do a bonus guy. I'm gonna have one more honorable mention. Now, I don't know necessarily falls into the category of like a silly season winner because he has been a usable guy throughout this year, and there is some things that I'm not sure about that are going to fall his way to make him be that category, but that's going to be Brandon Williams from the Dallas Mavericks. Now, I just personally, I have a bad feeling that Flag could get shut down or be extremely limited to close out the year. He's already not playing in back-to-back, so we've already seen that Dallas keeps losing, and Dallas really, they should be motivated to get the best pick possible in 2026 to pair with Flag for future years. The one saving grace that I always resort to when I'm scared to death, because I do have a bunch of Flag stocks and a bunch of my teams this year, is that he's going to want to win the Rookie of the Year. That nipple over in Charlotte is making a real push for it. So I think he would fight to not get shut down or not be heavily rested throughout the year. But again, I don't know how much say he's ultimately going to have in the decision. So it's just going to be a wait and see thing. I'm like 50-50 on it right now. But back to Williams. Williams is the guy that gets the biggest bump, in my opinion, when Flag is out. He's a UFA after this season. So you know he's not willingly going to sit any nights. He's playing for his next contract, for his livelihood. He's been a usable guy again at times we've seen throughout the season. So we know what to expect of him when he gets an extended run, what his fantasy game will produce. I think Williams could have a very solid finish to close out the year and help a bunch of teams out in fantasy playoff if Flag is limited or shut down near the end of the season. Okay, now we're just going to run through a group of players that I've already talked about recently or who aren't necessarily silly season winners that don't fit this criteria exactly, or they're already rostered in most, if not all, leagues. So first up, we have Mr. Walker from the Indiana Pacers. Now, I've talked about him lots now, so we won't go into this intense detail again. Check out my prior videos if you want more of a deep dive. But the Pacers want to lose, plain and simple. Walker should get all the usage he can handle on the nights that Siakam and Nembhard do sit out, which I think will be pretty frequent down the stretch. Bryce Sensabaugh off the Utah Tankers. Now, his fantasy game is very limited. He's practically just a threes and points guy. But if that's what you need for category, or if you're in a points league, he can get hot any given night. Jalen Smith, now the guy just needs to stay healthy. I'm a little bit worried about his calf injury. Hopefully they're just playing it super safe heading into the All-Star break. He is a per-minute beast like we've talked about. I hope he can get past that injury. The injury may have led to some increased competition behind him actually, so I'm not as high on him as I once was a few weeks ago. Next up, we have Trey Johnson and Bub Carrington. Now, Trey Johnson is the most active scorer, get my buckets type wing on that Wizards squad. Carrington is better suited for a punt field goal percentage build, probably punt turnovers build for you 9 categories out there, but both are usable now and hopefully continue to have increased usage and increased run to close out the year. Isaiah Collier, another player from the Tankers, he's probably rostered everywhere right now. He's an assist monster. When Keontae George sits out, Collier is like a must-start type of guy. And then we'll finish it up with Ace Bailey and Kyle Filipowski. Now, the Utah Jazz finally did get penalized for their clear tanking, sitting all their starters in the fourth quarter of a close game. But I don't think this is going to stop the Tankers from doing what they are put on this earth to do, and that is tank and ruin the integrity of the game and waste the money that fans spend to go there and see their favorite players potentially play and just watch them sit on the bench. But whatever, Adam Silver, you do you, man. I think the rotations are still going to be wildly inconsistent any given night in Utah unless we get some phantom season-ending injuries here from a couple of those guys. But regardless of all that, though, I think both these guys still need to be rostered. The upside is a little bit too juicy and is evident. All right, boys, but that's it for this video. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up, hype it if you're on mobile. If you're still watching and not sub, hit that sub button. I know a ton of you guys watch these videos and aren't sub. It would mean a lot. Hit that button. Let's try to get to 2K before the basketball season ends. Again, I hope you guys are crushing your leagues. We're getting the real crunch time here with fantasy playoffs just around the corner. I hope you guys have a good weekend, rest of your week, day, night, wherever you are, and I'll see you guys real soon.